fine-tune my research, but I'm hoping to have it done by this weekend to free up time for the two modules.
Oh, that 30th literally is a week from now, no?
Yeah, exactly. 7 days from now. A good thing, majority of the work is done, so it's not like, yeah, it's just consolidating and literally crossing all T's and dotting all I's.
True, true. Especially if you've done your milestone assessments well, that's gonna really pay off in a big way now.
Yeah. So
Fantastic.
yeah, we by next month, this time it'll all be said and done, Doc.
Sure. Hey, Carla, good evening.
Hi, Carla.
Oh no, that's amazing. All right, I've started the recording. We've got a session next week, which I will really use for Q&A
Okay.
and final touch up. This evening, I just want to give you guys some general guidelines. So I'm talking to the students that's online and the students looking at the recording. So just to reiterate, I'm sharing that one out of the way. Sharing the PAS, and of course we are sitting with um, zoom in a bit there. We're sitting with a scene exam for us on the 12th of November. We're sitting with contemporary management on the 21st of November. And that would be the very last thing, month from Christmas, a month before Christmas. So, and I was telling Neil now, it's actually nice that you guys have a bit of a window to finish research, get that off your desks, and then focus on the exam briefs. All right, so the exam briefs they did drop a while ago. I'm going to give you guys just a bit of my opinion and guidelines that I've seen to work well over the years. So obviously, the first thing that needs to be said here is that this is not a sit-down exam. It looks, and from what I've heard and observed from campus, it is earmarked for the Duga invigilated method only. I don't know if you guys have used Duga, so it's literally a case of you sitting down and then there are people watching you and looking at your behavior to see whether you are doing funny business as you are sitting there and writing there. And of course, this whole movement is toward positioning the institution better as an online and a distance facility. So to completely do away with any form of contact required. And so the Duga comes in there. I don't know too much about it to know if there are intelligent systems that can also pick up if people contravene, or if it's literally people watching you via your camera. But that would be interesting to find out and to know. So a big thing that, of course, is not a problem then is good evening, Sechawa, is the fact that we don't have handwriting problems. And I must tell you guys, it's every year it's a problem for me when I see those scripts and I can't make out what you say. And given the fact that I know the discipline, so I sort of know what to look for when I mark with my red pen, it's still and I must tell you, I'm the first to admit that my own handwriting is challenging for me. So um it is what it is. I've come to a point now where I make hundreds of little notes. I'm still a pen and paper guy. So I make notes and then I can't read what my notes are. They are too cryptic, first of all, and I can't read it. So then I figure out, okay, it says paint. And I say, all right, the note says paint. Now, what must I paint something? Must I buy paint? What's the paint? Oh, yeah. So yeah, but handwriting is always a challenge. So thank goodness we're not there. Uh, yeah, I don't know, Neil. Eh? My wife is a GP, and she actually does that. She writes illegible also. But I've seen worse. The specialists, they are the worst.
But it's amazing how the pharmacists all know exactly what is written down.
Listen, they can literally decipher it with just one little scribble there. Isn't that amazing? They they
Absolutely.
they very seldom have to phone the physician to find out what's written on that script, believe it or not. So guys, the exam, the debate on whether this is the best way to test your skill is not part of our discussion. It is what it is for now. This is the way you guys will be evaluated. So make the best of that. The very first bold line you see here, that it contains 6 questions. So the first thing that a clever, lazy student will do is to only prepare 5. That's of course possible, which means you eliminate your possibility of selection in the exam, and it could be, it's not 100%, it could work out very well for you. But if you only prep 5 questions, then of course, if it comes to that in the exam, that the questions fall in a certain way, the dice falls in a certain way, you might then not have too much options or that sort of thing. If the one you didn't prep is part of the 3 that's in the exam, then of course you are obliged to do the other 2. That can work out for you. I've always said if you got the combination of being clever and being lazy, which some of you have, and I'm not saying lazy in a derogatory meaning, I'm saying it as a compliment, you will bring it far in life. Clever, lazy people come up with amazing things, and they make life easier and better for us, and they make money from that. So the biggest thing that I wanna say this evening when we talk about the exam is, I know that students, and I've heard this via the grapevine over the years, students sometimes split up in their syndicate groups, and then they do the questions and they work it out with different group members. I really don't think that that's going to pan out well for you. So if you guys are on the fence thinking about that, I would lean toward not doing that and doing your own thing. I know in school, my daughters, they sold notes and they bought notes and that sort of thing. And it was a big thing to buy notes or to have a business making notes and selling those notes. But the real value of those notes, or of the exam brief prep in your case, guys, lies not in buying it or acquiring it, but lies in the making of it. That's where the real value comes. So you buy someone's notes or you get someone else's notes, but you're not really going to make sense of what it is. So go through that. And in fact, I think it's time well spent if you do your own brief and put this whole thing together. Your brain is a magnificent organ. You guys have determined that by now, and you've learned it this year. Think of how your brain is making sense of your research. It is chaotic. Those of you that are doing qual, how does your brain make sense of this? How does your brain make coherent sense of all this stuff that you've heard and spoke about and so on? But your brain does it. Your brain is amazing. And that's one thing I want you guys to really also take away from this year is don't underestimate yourself, and don't underestimate what you can do if you put your mind to it. In fact, you will sometimes go back to stuff that you have written yourself, and you will also sort of almost on the outside look in and say, my goodness, did I write this? This is good. Did I write that? So take pride in that, and keep on stretching yourself. So I always tongue-in-cheek say, those of you that say, yes, time out now, no more studies, it's not going to be long before you're going to start looking at the masters. By the way, Dr. P and myself is going to lecture next year on the MCOM in strategic management. So that's absolutely something that you guys can walk straight into. The MCOM is going to be a distance offering as well. The MBA is running next year. Yeah, so guys, never say never, hey, for an M. And then the other thing is, please, those of you that have any sort of appetite for that, consider publishing an article from your research. Very good to do that on your academic CV. You can get all the content from, so you publish from your research report. So it's not new or additional research per se. And that's also something that some of you might consider, especially if you are wanting to continue in any sort of way on academic trajectory. That's the word, trajectory. Okay. So plain and simple, guys, give me something to work with. There's Woolworths, there's Coca-Cola, there's Pepsi. I think the brief is very clear. We haven't received any ambiguities or problems in the brief. So we always keep an eye for that. So when the brief is published or when it's dropped on the portal, sometimes there's a problem or there's some typos or there's some stuff that's not clear. National will then communicate that. For this exam brief, touch wood, nothing seemed to be fine. Everything seemed to be fine. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing funny, nothing problematic. So the brief looks to be 100% explaining what is required. I like the way they give you those distinct bullet points as outcomes. So for me, the important thing, of course, is that you make your paper readable. And we've been over this before. When we talk about essays, it is definitely not an essay in the traditional sense where you sit down at school and write an essay about your December holiday at Margate. It is a structured academic paper. So by all means, guys, if there's 3 outcomes associated, like the Woolworths one here, then I would definitely put an introduction in there. I would at least put those headings in there and a conclusion to guide me when I'm marking your paper and say, listen, I'm making it easy for the reader, for the marker to navigate in the paper. I'm dealing with this outcome. I'm moving on and dealing with the next outcome. I'm moving on and dealing with the next. Nothing stops you from putting subheadings in there as well. You guys know I like structure and so on. So as long as there's a sensible and a logic flow in your document. Again, in the old days when they pen and paper, the worst thing that I could get was a script that had arrows and say this is inserted here, and then something is scratched out, and there's all sorts of marks and arrows and thing is directing you. So yeah, in your case, you guys are going to be able to submit something that's definitely more readable and neat. So thanks for that. Make sure you address all the bullet points. Believe it or not, I say this every year. I'm hesitant to say it because I can't believe it, but then I see it where people don't address all the outcomes. It's like your abstract in the research report, folks. The abstract counts, I don't know what the weighted mark for abstract is, say it's 5% or whatever, or 5 marks. Every year when I mark, I see students did not put an abstract in the research report, which means the most I can give you for an abstract is around 0 because there's no abstract. Give me something to work with. Same with the exam. I need to go and dig out and see where I can draw marks for you, but give me something to work with. It's not about quantity, but it is. I mean, if there's a 50-mark question and you write me a page, how am I going to get marks out of that? Listen, it's perfectly possible to write a book or 2 books, if I go to the traditional method again, of nonsense. That's also possible. Uh, if it sort of came down to writing in books, most of you would probably write about 2 books, some people 3, very seldom 4, some people 1 book. But if I see a question and I see there's a half a page or a page answer for a 50-mark long question, uh, it puts you in an immediate disposition because how on earth can I mark for 50 marks out of that? So again, not that it translates to quality, but the quantity at least gives me something to work with. Guys, don't write in a bulleted style. It is a academic paper that flows in ideas and paragraphs. Bulleted lists will not do it. Please don't do that. That is too cryptic. On the other hand, or other side of the coin, don't waffle unnecessarily. Writing an academic paper is nothing else than introducing a thought or an idea, introducing the next thought or the next idea, moving on, and so on and so on and so on. And of course, you then organize this whole paper in paragraphs, sections, headings, main headings, and so forth, main and subheadings, and so on. When you can present an idea in a sentence or 2, it makes no sense in writing half a page on that idea. I'm not going to give you more marks. When the idea is presented and I mark it and I say yes, 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 that's it. If that takes you a paragraph or a sentence or two to convey to me, that's perfect. So also, don't write too cryptic, but don't waffle and think that because you are writing a lot, but there's not real substance there, that I'm awarding marks for arguments, for ideas, for substantial points, guys. So please keep that in mind. I think what you will probably all do is to put together some sort of a framework that you will remember, or that you will write on the ceiling. If the Invigilator app cannot catch you out, you will be sitting and staring at the ceiling. But I think if you stare at the ceiling for more than a few seconds, they're gonna say, what are you what are you doing? So there's your framework. When I'm sitting now, I'm just thinking, guys, just to remember those 6 frameworks, because I do presume that there's some of the topics that might be sort of murky and overflowing. So just to put down the right framework, and then you're going to put meat on it, right? So that's the way I would do it. Of course, we've got different learning styles and so on, but don't just jump into it. Be calm on the day. Unfortunately, over my years, about 10 years or so, I've seen quite a few cases of students that went completely blank in an exam. Can you believe it, when exam time came, they just went completely, listen, I don't know what, I've never ever seen this work. So I'm holding thumbs that that will not happen to any of my students, and that everyone will come in with a calmness, and that they will have a sound mind on the day, and that they would be able to deserve the mark that equates to the degree of preparation that was put in here, guys. So that's Duga. While I'm talking about Duga, the module has definitely been identified for moderation. So I want to put your concerns at ease as well. The moderation process is very important at IIE to make sure that biases from evaluation perspective are kept to a minimum, or sort of avoided completely. So your marks are moderated. That means there's different people, there's different pairs of eyes looking at your mark. So you can rest assured, guys, that the mark you receive at the end of the day is the mark that you most likely deserve. I want to throw in something here, not to be negative, but just a side note. In my 10 years, again, that I've been doing this, I've very seldom seen a remark request working out good. 99% of the time, a remark will bring the mark down. That's the statistical trend I'm saying. That's what I've observed. So be careful before you request a remark where you, from your perspective, think, I need a higher mark. Remember, the person marking your work, the lecturer marking your work, has got a good idea of what the quality of all the submissions are. You don't have that. You sitting with your submission. Now the lecturer, and that's something I like to do, is I like to read a couple of submissions to give me an idea. This was a difficult exam. The people battled. This was an easier exam. This was average, or whatever the case may be. So just go with me through this scenario. As an example, if it was a tough one, and people battled, and that's what I pick up, I see, sure, they struggled. Now you're sitting with a 65, but the 65 might actually be one of the better marks in this difficult assessment, where the marks were relatively generally on the lower side. Can you guys hear what I'm saying? So now you get a 65 and you say, sure, but I'm used to more. I'm used to higher marks. I'm normally in the 70s or distinction or approaching distinctions. But because what I see in class, everyone is, it's difficult. Now that mark is actually not that bad. So the higher mark in a difficult exam can be lower than expected. Moderation, I've never had my marks moderated except in my very first year in 2015 when I failed 2 classes of business management first year students. And then I never ever worked with first years again. And I don't enjoy it, and I didn't enjoy it at the time. But I've never ever had marks moderated. And when I remarked, I think I always mark down, and when my students are remarked, I think always the marks goes down as well. All right, so long story to say, take it rustig. The mark you get is the mark you deserve. Take it from me. That's how things panned out, and that's the trend I've observed over the years. There is moderation, so there is other systems in place to make sure that the marks are correct and on par and fair and so on. All right. So the exam, I don't have the module outline here. I think the exam obviously then would carry the bulk of the module weight, the weighted mark. It is important, guys, and it is important to put a good effort into this. Normally, the exams are difficult. Normally, students, again, if I talk about the trends observed, normally students don't just fly up with marks with exams. Normally, they sort of stay there or tend to go down a bit with their marks because of the massive challenge. I mean, it's a demanding thing, this exam, and the style of exam and the style of evaluation that we expect from you guys. I don't think there's anything funny here. What about references? Well, what I would like to suggest is that you guys salt and pepper your answers with references where you can. Obviously, we're not talking about a reference list whatsoever. That's not on the cards. But if you've got a question and you're going to use references, obviously, to put together your answer, and you can memorize that Watson 2023 and McKinsey 2021 had this or that to say, by all means, guys, put those in. That would make a good impression. That would be a scoring point when you do include references. It is something that obviously you're not going to be able to write a full answer there that is littered with references. That's impossible. But I'm sure that you can remember probably in your preparation a handful of refs that you can then put in there and include it in your answer. So please try and do that. Again, that would be something that, from my perspective, raise the academic rigor of your submission, folks. There's not a lot to say. I think the questions are interesting. I wish I could. Some lecturers say they've got a formula. They think they know which ones are going to be asked. I must tell you, that's such a tight kept secret. No one knows, really. I think this is kept in a vault tighter than the Reserve Bank vault, hey, to be honest. So I've got absolutely no idea which ones we will see on the day in the exam. Because looking at it, there's always ones that you like more there, and ones that you sort of gravitate toward, and others that you don't really like so much. Sometimes we also get the impression that some of them appear to be easier to work out than others, hey? I appreciate the fact that there's that bit of a choice, that at least you guys can select 2 of the 3 that you receive on the day. So this is a mammoth exercise. Put your best effort into this, guys. Interact with the theory. Same story applies. Act like and speak like academics. I don't think, and I'm saying this carefully, but with caution, but I believe that's the truth. I don't think the assignments was at postgrad level. I really don't think so. Assignment 1 and 2, I mean, that assignment about the ESG, that was an undergrad assignment. This one, assignment 3, where we had the different theories, deontology and utilitarianism and so on, to speak about health. Again, it wasn't really for me a hardcore postgrad level assignment. That's just my opinion. But be that as it may, that is what we have in this space, and that is what we work with. I'm saying that because I see the ESG story here again, um, which I think we saw an assignment too. But interesting, if I can say something about assignment 3, by the way, the marks will only be next week or the week after. I think it was absolutely thought-provoking. Guys, if we say AI in healthcare, and we come to the difficult decisions, we come to stuff like, I don't know if you guys have watched the videos on assisted suicide, where people go to Sweden or one of those countries. So people living in chronic pain that can then say, listen, I want to commit suicide. I'm going to use a doctor to help me. And I mean, if we do a survey on that and we do a show of hands in class, a lot of you will say, oh my goodness, no, that's not something that sounds. And some people might say, well, if you live with chronic pain or you have been diagnosed with a prognosis that is not, the outcome isn't positive, then allow people to do that. It's emotionally loaded. Look at the whole idea of people working with x-rays, radiologists. You break your arm. AI in radiology, so maybe they've looked at 20 million cases because the AI system is trained. The doctor, the physical specialist, radiographer, maybe he's looked at 20,000 arm x-ray. So obviously, the x-ray that the AI can look at, AI might be just as good or better than the doctor. What about, do you want a robot to operate on your eye and do your LASIK surgery? Or do your brain operation? Or do you want a human to do it? Are you going to the GP to get a plaster and a plaster and a tablet, or do you also go for empathy and compassion? Now, the AI people say, listen, we're going to build those in. We're going to have systems where empathy and compassion is built in. So what do we say about this? It's not an easy question with an easy answer. What about the AI system that can maybe make a differential diagnosis, and the doctor can then be more productive or be more efficient in making a final diagnosis? This is my symptoms, AI. Uh, AI comes back and says you might have bronchitis, and now the doctor goes in, but this groundwork's been done so the doctor can maybe do that more efficient or quicker or whatever the case may be. IBM Wealth or IBM Health, I think what's it called, they played with it. So the people pushing AI will push the boundaries, will push the limits on AI. And I've said a couple of times, I think the AI pendulum is here. It will centralize. There's a lot of hype that's going to go over and it's going to go past. But the people pushing AI are really pushing it. And there will be lots of things that we see in our lifetime where the outcomes are not necessarily ideal, and AI is not everything it is made out to be. And of course, the flip side of that coin is AI is going to do wonderful things as well. But I mean, we are social beings. The question I always ask, you sitting on an aeroplane, do you want a computer black box sitting in front of the plane, or do you want the physical body of a human being sitting in the cockpit And people have varying opinions about that. Some people say, "Oh my goodness, no, I want the person flying that plane." Other people, maybe especially the tech guys, né? What do we call them again? Those tech nerds, the guys in school that everyone sort of, they've got thick glasses and they're nerdy, and they say after school, 10 years or so later, then everyone works for these guys, eh? But they'll say no. Let the plane fly by computer. It's much safer than a person. Um, so I thought the intersection of health and AI was a massively thought-provoking. It was a food for thought assignment, guys, which was wonderful to interact with and to think about a bit. All right. Look at this. Don't just jump in. Look at the rubrics, please, because they're giving us, like always, some nice clues in the rubric. We mark using the rubrics, guys. We don't give impression marks. I'm going to see you. Listen, where do you fall? What's the block where you fall in this rubric? By the way, you're not going to get this back. You only get your mark. You don't get back your exam papers if it is still the way it was. Um, I'm not sure with Yuga how it will work now, but in the old days you never got back your books, your scripts. So there's the rubrics again, pretty simple. Um, where do you fall in this rubric, and what can I do to give you the best mark that I can in that block? I'm looking at this. I'm familiarizing myself with the outcomes and what is in this rubric. So obviously, uh, I want you guys to spend a bit of time looking at that as well, and looking at the block to the farthest right, because that's the block where you want to at least get into, uh, and so on. And it is difficult. Let's just get one thing straight, guys. Academic writing isn't easy. It is not everyone's cup of tea. Um, there's a different learning curve for different people. I always use the example, hey, bike. Mummy, daddy, I can't ride my bike. I'm falling the whole time. No, son, go back. That's what we all had to do. No, but I don't want to do it. Well, then you can't ride a bike. Okay, I'll get back on. Fall, elbows and knees are bleeding and mercurochrome that burns the heck out of me. But so I carry on. And not long, I can ride the bike. And sometime after that, I can ride the bike without my hands. And sometime after that, I can wheelie the bike. Now, for some people, that curve is quicker and steeper. And for other people, the curve is flatter and longer. It's the same with anything in life, guys. If you play an instrument, there was a growth curve. If you play paddle, there was a growth curve. It's the same with academic writing. That's just the way it is. And some people, I think, are more born for it. Their designs are more made for academic writing. And some people, that's not really the type of thing they want to do. Our learning styles differ. Some people don't want to sit down and write stuff. They want to do other stuff. They are maybe kinesthetic. They want to do things. They're action orientated. Um, or they're more verbally inclined, or auditory inclined, versus using words and typing and that sort of thing. So all of that plays a role. I'm just saying everyone that sits in this class have been successful through the admission criteria. So everyone that sits in this class has an absolute 100% chance to nail this and to nail the module. And that's what we want, guys. We want all of you to go through to graduate. By the way, another side note, you will see the additional opportunities to submit research. Please don't bank on that. Get your research perfect on the first submission, October the 30th. That second window is not something that you can rely on to catch you at all. Please don't think that. Then, guys, look at the bullets. Make sure that you do produce outcomes for all that you produce answers for all the recommended outcomes, and that you distinctly uh, address that issue and then continue. and use a heading that makes sense for me. If it says suggest recommendations on how they could apply elements, give me a heading that says recommendations on how they could apply these elements. Then I know you are busy with this question and you are busy with this outcome. Analyze statutory obligations, a nice heading, and analysis of statutory obligations. I know exactly what I'm busy with. Describe in detail possible challenges, a heading, challenges associated with achieving sustainability in South Africa. And I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know what you are talking about because your paper is readable. It's easier for me to navigate. Guys, I'm not going to keep you longer. I know you've got stuff on your plates to do. I do believe your commie was, when was that? Yesterday, no? So that's out of your lives. So all the best with everyone with research. All the best with this exam. I will pop in next week as well, so we can do a Q&A. I will maybe give you some final tips on academic writing, which I'm always carrying and continuing on about. I think this is enough for this evening. Thank you. Proud of everyone. Work hard and reap the reward of your hard work. Guys, don't start and lose momentum now. Things are at a place where the finishing post is really within sight. And it's time now to dig deep, to dig your heels in and say, I am going to absolutely nail it. It is that time of the year when we get irritated, frustrated, and deadlines, and they're starting to play Boney M music here in Menlyn Centre where I live. So it is a bit of an irritating time of the year, but don't lose track of the goal, guys. I salute you. I say take care, and we'll be in touch soon. If no questions, I'm happy to adjourn the meeting. You are welcome. Cheers, guys. Uh, the marks for that will only be finalized next week, Neil. So, or the week after. So don't be too much in a hurry for that. It's going to take a bit of time. All right. Cheers, folks. Take care.